So today in this reaction video, it was The Legal versus Ethnical Liability, A Crisis of Leadership and Culture by Mel Fieldgate. And he started the presentation off by making it personal to the crowd, like asking them questions like how many of you are students, how many of you witnessed unethical conduct at work or school, and how many of you have been targets of unethical conduct. So the crowd didn't really respond to him, they just were there for the presentation, so he was raising his hand. But an HB&R study revealed that the 98% of employees reported experiencing unethical behavior at work. And the trends are getting worse, which the incidents have doubled since 1998 to 2001. And common forms of unethical behavior at work are you're punished, had your reputation or your opportunities undermined, yelled at or sworn at by a boss or a coworker, and forced to go along with it, shut up or else. So bullying within the work, 27% of employees have direct experience from it that we know of that spoke up. And why should leaders care? 48% of employees intentionally decrease their work effort. 47% intentionally decreased time spent at work. 63 lost work time avoiding the offenders. 66 said performance decline, and 12% said they left because of it. So executives spent 15%, which is 7 weeks of their time dealing with unethical conduct, which is a lot. And effects with performance, it affects you, then it affects your coworkers, your boss, your union, your unit, and your whole organization as a whole. And the leadership is very unethical, but it is not illegal. So Eric Holder, a former U.S. Attorney General, said that the conduct that led to the financial crisis was unethical and irresponsible, and some of the behavior, while morally reprehensible, may not necessarily have been criminal. And then 24 out of 1,400 cases were legal liability, which is legal liability matters, but ethnic liability is the higher standard in what we actually expect of our leaders. So in the leadership perspective, legal liability is a test of the smarts. And if you get into legal trouble, most of the time you blew it because of common sense. And then ethnical liability is test of character. And leaders need to be smart, but they also need to have character, which is very, once you have a leader of character, everything, you just feel it's just a better environment. And the most common form of unethical leadership is allowing unethical conduct to continue, not knowing it or knowingly of it, but not acting on it. And then a big thing he talked about was going into sports and how there's many examples of unethical leadership in all the institutions and stuff like that. So sports being unethical made patterns in many different cases, and this is a higher ed culture problem, which means it's a leadership problem. And then the perseverance and cost make it a crisis, which an example would be leaders keep sweeping the messes such as unethical behaviors and don't stand up to be a good leader, therefore nothing gets solved. So he had a little animated picture where the leader's on top of the rug and people just keep sweeping and it just keeps going under the rug, not going and stopping the problem and just sweeping it under does not make you a good leader, and also doesn't help the situation for people. So leaders delegate ethics and don't intervene when or where it happens, which leads to escalating it more. By stopping it right when it happens, that'll help help people and help everyone. And if you're aware of it, it's your responsibility. Once you see it or you know about it, that's when you need to step in. And leadership development, don't delegate ethics. No consequences for the leaders above law. And then here's an example would be Jamie Dimon. He was a JP Morgan person. He was a CEO, and he's still a CEO, and he paid $20 billion in legal settlements, and he's still he was responsible for it all, but he's still the CEO. So that's where a leader is high up into the business and they do stuff wrong, but they still get away with it. And then Jim Boeheim, he was a Syracuse, and he had 10 years of academic fraud at his university, and he stays in the job for 3 more years because of his contract. So why no consequences for these leaders that are high up? Well, they have the halo reputation, which is years of service, everyone likes them, he or she wouldn't do that. Believe it, cultures enable good people to do bad things. So then performance metrics would be profits, wins, championships, rankings, donations, buildings, and centers. So when this like once like a coach like keeps like the team like winning and stuff, like you don't want to get rid of that leadership because they're winning, they're making money, like they're giving like the school profits and stuff like that, but like it's unethical. And then the hubris would be the rules apply to others, unwillingness to admit their mistakes. And then the BBTL syndrome, which is been boss too long, which never the target or sufferer. Coaches, presidents, provosts, deans, and some faculty like have been in their roles for decades, so you don't want to get rid of them because like they have that knowledge and stuff. But like with the unethical behaviors and stuff, like that doesn't help anything. It just keeps putting you guys down. And then leaders foster unethical cultures. And then here's a statement from Sam Rayburn, a Texas governor. He said, if you want to get along, go along. Which then Mel said this was a hallmark of unethical cultures. People won't speak up, and those that do, they're punished. So like that doesn't make someone want to speak up. Like if you speak up about something, like you don't want to speak up because you're gonna get punished for it. So what's the point of talking when you can just keep it to yourself? And then here's some antidotes. Would you tolerate bullying of a customer or student? Then why do you tolerate with employees? And then codes of ethics would just empty the words if leaders don't walk the talk. Life's unfair, deal with it, put it in the box, on the shelf. The OWN website says that fairness is the key and value of the university. We've ruined your career here, pay raises, recently promoted, and just might be dean, provost, and president someday. And then it talks about accountability, which is the performance management, which is like with the presidents, provosts, deans, and consequences that are meaningful to the individual, the context, and those affected. And then communicate compliance and non-compliance, which is acknowledge those that made tough choices and don't hide. And then sweep under the rug again. Don't sweep under the rug bad behavior because that just keeps reoccurring, all the bad behavior. Like nothing gets solved, nothing gets better. The people are still miserable while working, while they're getting bullied or getting treated wrong. And then remember, he had this he had a legal, it doesn't equal ethnical. So like with the legal, like clearing this hurdle builds your leadership and character and the character and quality of your organization. So then he had another little clip art picture where there was two hurdles, and there was a legal hurdle and an ethnical, and the person was jumping over the legal one, and then the ethnical one like was higher up, like which is hard. Like no one, like being a good leader and stuff like that, like having unethical behaviors at work is very hard, but like being like with character and stuff, like you can stop it. And then unsanctioned bad behavior, unethical and unprofessional, and it continues. Leaders in action speak louder words than any other policy and codes. And then ethics is everyone's responsibility. Because something is unethical does not mean it is illegal, nor is it all legal behavior ethical. Leadership 101, never delegate ethics. Communicate both compliance and non-compliance. It is the responsibility of each individual, and when they fail, then the ethical buck stops with their boss. So he really went with never delegate ethics. Like you can't just sweep it under the rug. Like you need to take an accountability of like the ethics, and like the leaders need to stop it from happening, from like just sweeping it under the rug. Like if you just stop it once it happens, and like if you know of it, then everything will just be fine.